I'm Kelley Pitts, and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Lubbock, Texas. And I just thought I would get on the air really quickly and introduce you to a different way to mount large stamps. Actually, you can mount any size stamps this way, but I have been wanting to try this. I saw somebody online do it, and I would give them credit, but I can't remember where all I saw it. But I've tried it with some small stamps, but I just got a new mini messages stamp from Stampin' Up, and that is this one right here. It's called Mini Messages, and it has a lot of wonderful, let's get over here where you can see a little bit better. Has a lot of little messages on it that is all on one big stamp. And what I want to do is cut these. Actually, you stamp them all out at one time. This is the back, and then we'll have the labels, and we are going to try to mount all of that. A lot of times it is difficult to get the label to be exactly where you want it lined up on the stamp itself. So we're going to try a new way to do that. So I'm glad you tuned in, and I will turn the camera down in just a second here, and then we'll get started. And I'll show you, because I haven't tried it because this is a big stamp, and I thought I would just give it a try and see how this tip works. I have tried it on some smaller stamps, and I think this is going to be a really useful tip for you and for me. So I'm excited to show it to you. Again, I'm Kelley Pitts, Stampin' Up! Independent Demonstrator since 2005. And I'm based in Lubbock, Texas, but I have customers everywhere, can have them all over the United States. So if you're interested in finding out more about Stampin' Up! Products or my Create With Kelley classes, would love for you to go to my blog at createwithkelley.com and tune in. Thanks. Just a sec. Alrighty, we are going to get started here in just a second. Of course, you think you have everything perfectly lined up to do exactly what you want, and then I probably walked away with the stamp. Here it is. Okay, so we have our labels and we have our stamps, and I'm trying to get this where I can kind of see on the computer. There's like a 10-second delay or so between when I say something and when it shows up on screen. So I hope I can see your comments, so y'all can let me know if you're on here. Would love to say hi. And let's get this where I can see those comments, and then we'll get started. I'll get this turned around. Now you can read everything, I think. Hopefully that's good. Okay, now what I'm going to try is taking this largest block, and I have all the Stampin' Up! Blocks in a case, and I just label mine so I know which size is which if I need to tell y'all which block to use for a certain thing. And this is block F, so it's the largest of the Stampin' Up! Blocks. I don't think you can see the whole case all at once, but it's close. So block number F is what we're going to use. And next time I try this, I'm going to try it with the Stamparatus. But today, we're just going to be doing this. All right. We are taking the entire piece off. Okay, this is the label, and it comes in the kit whenever you get your stamp set, your cling stamp sets. These are the red rubber stamp sets, and they really do cling. They are sticky, 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 unlike the way they used to be. So what we're going to do is take this out of the case, and we are going to peel the whole thing off. There's a backing, and then there's the sticky part of the label itself. This is the sticky part that will stick to your stamp. So we're going to get both pieces all at once. And we're going to set that other piece aside, and I do keep those, and I'll show you where I use it shortly. Alrighty, we're going to just put this down, try to kind of get that straight. You can use your grid paper for that. And then we're going to line this up, line up the block which is barely gonna fit. So you gotta really be kind of careful about this. Hopefully I'm not getting my head in the way or anything. All right, we're gonna press that on there. Then we're gonna take this backing off of your red rubber stamps. It comes out of your case like that. You just peel that backing off. And that is, I do throw that away. I don't know if anybody has a use for those, but if you do, you might want to share that on here. Okie doke. We are going to move this piece over. You've taken the backing off. All we're going to do is take the backing off of this now that we have mounted on our stamp. And this would be easier if I had to take your pick tool here. And it seems like I didn't think of that before I started this very impromptu video. But here we go. We're going to peel that side off, peel this side off, and I have terrible fingernails, so whoops. Don't know what's happening with the video here. It's not wanting to play it on my computer. Hopefully y'all are still on. We'll see if I'm talking to myself. I'll wait a minute here. Okay, that looks okay. So maybe it was just a glitch in my internet or my computer. But I am just trying to get this other backing off. And like I said, this would be easier with a take a pick tool, but it's in the other room. And I don't want to have to get up and go in there, but I may have to in a minute if I can't get this with my fingernail. Okay, let's try up here. See if we have better luck. This barely fits on this block, so I should have tried it on the Stamparatus instead of this, but we'll see how this works. Okay, so we have the full label here, and I'll do that with the bone folder. It looks like I've got a slight little bubble there. We'll see how that works out, because I only get one shot at this. But all you do is line it up where you've got it exactly in the middle, kind of lining all the edges, just hovering over the rubber piece to where I think I've got it where it should be. And then I'm pressing down, crossing our fingers, hope for the best. So hopefully this is a great way to mount this. I can still see that I've got a little bubble, so I should have been a little more careful with that. But that's all there is to it. Now you carefully peel that, you get underneath there, and if you have your take your pick tool, if it's difficult with your fingers, you can just use the little spatula end of your take your pick tool. And now your label is mounted. And I think this little bubble that's in here will work its way out. Of course, this side is sticky because we want it to be sticky so it sticks to our stamps. But there we go. This seems like it's right barely on the edge here, and sure enough it is. So what we wanted to do was get this lined up perfectly so that when we stamp with it, the die will cut it out properly. We also have, this is from the Mini Messages set. We have the Mini Messages Cling Stamp set and the Messages die. And that die is all one piece. So you stamp all of these greetings at one time. And this is going to be in the new annual catalog for 21-22. It's a carryover. So let's see, this die is going to cut out all of these as we stamp one time, and we get all of these greetings. So isn't that exciting? Love that. So I can't wait to use it. This is my first time, obviously, because I hadn't mounted it. Okay, now we've got our stamp and our die. We've got that mounted, and since I'm going to make several of these, or I plan to make several of these, I'm going to get the Stamparatus out, because that block, as you can see, barely fit the block F. So when you try this, you may want to try mounting it on the Stamparatus first instead of doing it on the block. But I was a little afraid. I didn't know how the pressure would work using the Stamparatus. So what we're going to do is line this up where I want it on my paper. And I did my paper, I just cut the 8.5 by 11 in half. So this is a 5.5 by 8.5 sheet. And I know I'm going to have some extra here, but I wanted to be able to maneuver it and really get this straight in here. And I've lined it up on the grid paper on the Stamparatus. And hopefully I haven't lost you. If anybody's on and can make comments and let me know if I'm still there, that would be great. Because I've got a black screen. Don't know if that's my computer or what that is. I seem to not be getting comments. There we go. Okay, there's Cindy. Glad you're there, Cindy. Am I still on the air? All right, here we go. Now, we're going to stamp with this. And I've got a card that I need to work with. And I'm going to use Pretty Peacock that is going to be retiring. So when you use the Stamparatus, you can use the same, I think we're going to have to take the cushion out of the bottom here. You need the cushion that comes in your Stamparatus. You need that for your photopolymer stamps. But usually the red rubber has enough cushion within the stamp itself that you don't need that. So we are going to try it without it and see how this works. We need you can put either a stamp case underneath here, or you can put your Stampin' Pierce mat, either one. I'll show you kind of how this works. I usually use the Stampin' Pierce mat to give this a little cushion. That way you're sure you can get even pressure on the stamp. And usually I would stamp it on scrap paper the very first time you use a stamp. Sometimes you can get a little oil or something from the manufacturing process that is still left on your stamp. But since we're doing this on the air, I thought we'll just flip that piece of paper over if it isn't what we need. If you don't get a perfect stamp that first time. And the Stamparatus is awesome, especially if you're having trouble, if you've got arthritis, which I kind of have a crazy lump here, and I mean some pain in my hands, some joint pain, but a lot of people have a lot. So the Stamparatus is easier for some than holding up the big block. And you can see that didn't stamp perfectly the first time, which I didn't really expect it to. Like I said, fresh out of the box. I didn't get to practice with it first. But that is the beauty of the Stamparatus, because you have the magnets that are keeping your sheet in place. And like I said, I knew this was bigger than the die, bigger than the stamp, the sheet of paper, but I wanted to be able to hold it in place with the magnets so that I can go back on any of these areas that didn't get completely covered the first time. And we just go back again. Use some even pressure. And like I said, if you have trouble with your fingers, you can use your doubled up fist, however you want to use some pressure, as long as you kind of do some even pressure all the way around. I see some people who smooth it like this. It really just kind of, you come up with your own technique on what works best for you. That's pretty good. Looks like everything's good except the happy birthday. So I'm just going to put a little more ink right there in that one area. And try it one more time. Let's see if we can really use some pressure here. Next time I try it, I'll try it with the extra foam under there and see if that's what we needed. There we go. Isn't that awesome? Looks great. Okay, how exciting. I have the label on where it should be. We have one sheet stamped in Pretty Peacock. Now, what I'm going to do is set this aside and clean this with the Stampin' Chamois shortly. But first, we're going to bring in the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine so that we can do our die. And the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine has the instructions on here. This shows you that this is plate number 1, and you should use this for die cutting. And then you'll use plate number 2, which is right here, and it tells you to put it next. The base plate number 1 is on the bottom, then number 2, and then you make like a little sandwich. Put your plate number 3 as it's labeled. Then we will put our sheet of paper, and that's kind of like your meat of your sandwich. Then you've got your cheese. I know some people out there don't like cheese, don't like meat, but you got to have both of these steps to make your sandwich work here. So whatever you do put on your sandwich, just think of those layers. And the easiest way, I think, to line up this die, the tips that I've heard, are to line up the little heart. There are hearts and stars in here. And if we get those lined up, everything else is pretty much going to be lined up. So we've got Post-it notes that we're going to use. We're going to get this totally lined up. And eventually Stampin' Up will have, hopefully soon, but we have no word of when this will be. We'll get our magnetic plate that will hold these in place without having to use Post-it notes. But right now, that's kind of the best way. You just get it positioned as best you can. And make sure the Post-it notes aren't hanging out over the edge, because that'll catch. That can go this way, but not this way. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we're going to put the top plate on. That's the other piece of bread on our sandwich. I'm going to see if I can, let's close this ink pad up before we make a mess. All right, now I'm going to see if I can get this to where you can see the handle a little bit, kind of how we crank it, how easy this is going to be. You just hold it on the top. It's going to crack a little bit, and that's normal. There we go. Now we're going to take this off. I hope y'all can see it still. Anybody still on the air? I don't know why my computer keeps cutting off so that I can't see that. It just gives a big black screen. I don't know. All right. Hopefully y'all are still there. Now, we have the Post-it note. Whenever you're using a Post-it note like this, sometimes it has a tendency to stick to your paper. And I should have stuck it to my clothes first. That's one way to ensure that it doesn't do that. But you kind of peel it back onto itself instead of pulling straight up so that it doesn't pull your paper. We'll go ahead and take the... Whoop, look at all that. We've got all these labels. I'm going to take the machine out of the way so y'all can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Okay. Now, as I was saying about the Post-it note, if you'll kind of peel it back onto itself as opposed to pulling straight up, then you get less likelihood of it peeling your paper off or pulling your paper. Okay, there's that. Now with one stamp and one cut, we have all of these labels. Isn't that awesome? I'll show you in a minute what else you can do with those. Yay! How fun is this? And you may or may not use the little stars and hearts, but you can just put them in a little baggie or Ziploc or whatever you want to. And it looks like I've got some of these that are not totally perfect. I've got a little missing part there. I'm going to get a marker, hopefully, my pretty peacock marker. It may not be in here. Let's see if I can find it. Doesn't look like I have it. So it's missing, but this is something you could easily fix with the coordinating marker. And I would use just the pretty peacock marker. I would if I had it in here, but it doesn't seem like I do. So nevertheless, these are all the greetings that you can use. I will be doing a class where if you ordered this mini messages bundle with the die and the stamp set, that I'll give you a little card kit to make some pretty cards. And that was it. That's what I wanted to show you today. I'll also show you how you can use this then as a template on your Stamparatus. If you put your template back on your Stamparatus like this, I would keep this. You may want to cut it down just a little bit. Line this back up to where you had it. And if you're doing multiples, like I said, you would leave the stamp on the Stamparatus. And if you want to cut out that many each time, that's great. But if you just want, say if you find that you make a ton of these, this particular size, then you can always go back in and cut some just sheets of paper like this. Cut some 8.5 by 5.5 sheets of the white. Put it in here, die cut them out just plain white, not stamped, if you want to. And then you can fit this back in. Whoops, the way it was. You'd have to have it facing the right way. Okay, does that make sense? So use this as a template, and then you could just ink up that one part. Boop. Just put one little piece of paper in here. You wouldn't have to do the whole thing at once. So you can either stamp it all like this, or you can go back in and just strategically place blanks back into this template and then stamp. You can just pretend that this fits, okay? Because this is not going to fit because it's not symmetrical. But let's pretend that was a blank piece of white paper that fit right there, and you just inked up the thank you. You could do it again like that. So that's just one tip with this set, and we'll be doing a lot more when I do a card with it. But I just wanted to show you how to mount that big label. Yay! Thank you. Now I'm going to make some cards and hope you have a wonderful, creative, crafty day. I'll turn you back up and say goodbye, and y'all have a wonderful day. Whoops, not quite high enough. Hard to guess exactly. But thank you so much. I am excited to play with my mini messages bundle, and hope y'all, if you're interested in getting this stamp set and die, I will make you some little card sets that you can, easy cards that you can put these messages on, and I'll be showing samples of these, some cards using these very soon, now that I have them cut out. I'm all excited that I'll show you on Wednesday night at 7:15 on my Facebook Live. We'll be doing a card and showing you how I use some of these messages. So y'all have a great day. Fun times ahead. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.